The fence post snapped clean off in my hands. Third one this week. The drought had been eating at the wood all summer, and now the whole east side of my property line looked like a row of crooked teeth. I dropped the post in the dirt, wiped my face with my sleeve, and that's when I saw the smoke. Not the kind that means fire, the thin, lazy kind, coming from Nara's chimney, which meant she was home, which meant I had no more excuse to delay what I'd been putting off for 3 weeks. I'd bought a jar of my mother's preserved peaches the day she passed, set them on the counter, moved them to the shelf, moved them back to the counter. My wife Eleanor used to say I had the social grace of a fence post, and she wasn't entirely wrong. The peaches had been staring at me for 22 days, and I still hadn't walked them next door. Nara Running Water had lost her husband Thomas in April. Quiet man, good man. Kept his cattle healthy and his words solid. We'd been neighbors for 11 years. The kind of neighbors who wave across a half-mile of open land and mean it. The kind who show up when a calf gets stuck in a ravine at 2 in the morning without needing to be asked. I picked up the peach jar and walked. The thing about the high desert in October is that it tricks you. Warm at noon, cold by 4, I'd forgotten my jacket. By the time I got to her porch steps, I could feel the temperature already starting to drop off the edge of the afternoon. She opened the door before I knocked. She always did that. I never could figure out how. "Cal?" she said. Nara, she looked tired, not the kind of tired sleep fixes. The kind that settles in behind a person's eyes after something heavy has been sitting on their chest for months. She was wearing a faded blue work shirt, sleeves rolled to the elbows, and her dark hair was pulled back loose, a few strands falling across her face. She hadn't bothered to push them aside. I held up the jar. "Mom's peaches. Figured you might. I don't know. They're good." She put cardamom in them. "I don't know why I'm explaining peaches to you." The corner of her mouth moved. Not quite a smile, but something near it. "Come in," she said. Her kitchen smelled like wood smoke and something savory that had been on the stove too long. A pot of beans, I figured. She'd been feeding herself the way people do when they're grieving. Not really cooking, just making sure something warm exists. I set the peaches on her table. She didn't offer me coffee right away, which told me she was more tired than she was letting on. Nara Running Water was a woman who offered coffee the way other people said hello. It was a reflex. When it didn't come, I knew. "Sit down," I said. She looked at me. "I mean, if you want." I'm just saying you look like you've been standing up for about 6 months straight." She sat, pulled out the chair across from me, and sat in it with the careful way of someone whose body has been going through motions it can't quite feel anymore. I got up and found her coffee things myself. She watched me move around her kitchen, like she was trying to decide if this was strange. I'd been in this kitchen probably 40 times in 11 years. I knew where the mugs were. I knew the stove ran hot on the left burner. Thomas had told me once, and I'd never forgotten it. "You don't have to do that," she said. "I know." I made 2 cups, put hers in front of her first, sat back down. We didn't talk for a while. Outside, the wind was starting to move through the juniper trees, and the light through the window was going that particular shade of amber that only exists in the last 30 minutes before the sun drops behind the mesa. I've lived in the high desert my whole life, and I still don't know what to call that light. It makes everything look like the most important moment that's ever happened. "I keep forgetting," she said. I looked at her. I'll hear something, a truck on the road, and for about half a second, I think it's him coming back down the lane. She wrapped both hands around her mug. Then I remember, and it's like losing him again. Same weight, every time. I didn't say anything. I've learned, the hard way, over many years and many wrong words, that sometimes a person doesn't want a response. They just want someone to hold the moment with them. She looked up at me. "Does that go away?" "Some of it," I said. "The sharp part. It gets not smaller, just less sharp." "How long?" I thought about Eleanor. How I still sometimes reach for her in my sleep and wake up confused. 11 years since I lost her. Depends on the day, I said honestly. She nodded like she'd expected that answer. We talked for a long time after that. Not about grief, about ordinary things. Her cattle count, which was short by 4 after the summer heat. My fence posts, which she said seen leaning for a month and was going to mention. The Henderson family 3 miles east who'd sold their land to some developer out of Phoenix. How the whole valley felt like it was slowly becoming something none of us recognized. By the time we'd talked ourselves quiet, the window was black. The lamp on her table was the only light, and outside the temperature had gone over that invisible edge from cold to genuinely cold. She started to stand up, and I could see it happen. That split second where a person's body does something their mind didn't intend. Her foot caught the chair leg. She didn't fall, but she grabbed the table edge. And when she straightened up, her face had that pressed look of someone swallowing something. "You all right?" "My feet," she said, a little embarrassed. "I've had my boots on since 5 this morning. I keep forgetting to take them off and then they swell and then—" "Sit down." "Cal, I don't need." "Nara," I said it quietly. "Sit down." She sat. I pulled up a low stool, the one she kept by the door for pulling off muddy boots. Crouched down in front of her. The boots were the old work kind, lace-up, leather, gone soft at the creases from years of use. I undid the laces on the first one slowly. Careful, the way you'd handle something that mattered. She went very still. I eased the boot off and set it aside, then peeled back the wool sock, and I could see why. Her ankle was swollen a bit at the top, the kind that comes from hours on your feet on hard ground. "You've been working through this," I said. "I didn't notice." "You noticed. You just didn't stop." I pressed my thumb gently along the arch of her foot, just enough to ease the pressure. She made a sound that was barely a sound. Like something releasing that had been held tight for a very long time. I did the other boot the same way. When I set her second foot down, she was looking at me with an expression I didn't know how to name. Not romantic, not exactly. Something older than that. Something that lives between gratitude and grief and the strange tenderness of being seen. "Thomas used to do that," she said quietly, "when I'd forget myself working." "He was a good man," I said. "He was." A pause. "You're a good man too, Cal." I didn't know what to say to that. So I just stayed where I was for a moment, on that low stool, with the wood stove ticking in the corner and the wind talking to itself through the juniper trees outside. She got up to bank the fire before bed, and that's when I noticed she was still in her work shirt. Heavy canvas, stiff at the collar, the kind that holds the cold of the outdoors in the fabric long after you've come inside. She had goosebumps on her forearms. "There's a flannel by the door," she said, not quite looking at me. "Where?" "Hook by the Thomas's old one." She was standing with her back half turned, poking at the stove, and I could see the tension across her shoulders. The careful way she said his name. I got up. The flannel was on the hook. Large, dark red plaid, faded from years of wearing. I walked back over to her. She'd set down the fire poker and was just standing there, both hands loose at her sides, staring at the low flames through the stove grate. "Here," I said gently. She didn't move. I reached up and took hold of the top button of her work shirt. Not hurried. Not anything except careful. She let out a slow breath and stood still while I undid the first button, then the second. The shirt fell open at the collar, and I helped her shrug it off her shoulders. Beneath it she had on a white undershirt, thin cotton. She was shivering slightly. I held the flannel shirt open, and she slid her arms in. It was enormous on her. The sleeves hung past her hands. She laughed. Actually laughed, and the sound of it was startled, like she hadn't expected her own laugh to be there. "I look ridiculous," she said. "You look warm." She pushed the sleeves up and turned around, and I was close enough that she had to look up a little. In the firelight she looked, I don't know. Solid in a way she hadn't looked all evening. Like something had settled back into place by a few degrees. "You should stay," she said. Too cold to walk back now and the guest room's already made up. I've walked that road in worse. I know you have. Stay anyway. I slept in the guest room under 3 quilts with the window showing me a rectangle of stars so thick they looked painted. Somewhere around 2 in the morning, a coyote started up in the valley, and I lay there listening to it while the stove in the next room ticked itself cool. I thought about Thomas, about Eleanor, about how strange it is that love doesn't end when people do. It just changes address, finds different corners to live in. In the morning, I woke to the sound of her moving around the kitchen. Coffee before I even got out of bed. The smell of it came under the door like a kind thought. I got up and went out, and she was at the stove in Thomas's flannel shirt, hair loose, turning eggs in an iron skillet with the practiced ease of someone who'd been cooking in this kitchen long enough that the skillet was an extension of her hand. She didn't look up when I came in. "Sit down," she said, and there was something different in how she said it. Not tired, something warmer. I sat down. She put a plate in front of me. Eggs, toast, and a few slices of the canned peaches from the jar I'd brought, arranged on the side of the plate like she'd thought about it. I looked at those peaches for a second. My mother's cardamom peaches, sitting on Nara Running Water's blue plate in the thin October morning light. "Thank you for coming last night," she said, sitting down across from me with her own plate. She finally looked at me. "I didn't know I needed it until you were already here. I should have come sooner." "You came when you came." She picked up her fork. "That's the only time there is." I went home after breakfast. Fixed the fence posts on the east side, all 6 of them. Took most of the afternoon. I could see her kitchen window from where I was working. Yellow light coming on inside around 4 as the sky went dark. I didn't wave, neither did she. But both of us knew the other was there. And somehow, in the particular ado of people who have learned what it means to lose someone they loved, that was enough. That tiny square of warm light. That bit of distance that doesn't mean gone. It meant the opposite.